Daniel. Dr. Rodney Craig is village president in the village of Hanover Park. Thank you as well. Dr. Marion Stanke, client relations executive at Deloitte. And I really want to take an extra moment to thank you for being here. I know when employers are in the room, you're sacrificing time and making money at something else. Not that all of us don't do that, but we're paid to be here. We appreciate the fact that you're giving us your time. And Dr. Ed Udell, President and CEO, Fabricators and Manufacturers Association International. Ed, ditto to you. Thank you for being with us. So let me start with Daniel. Daniel, if you would, what jumped out at you from what you heard from Karen? What should we be thinking about when we go into our breakouts here in a little bit?
Yeah, thank you to Dr. Ender and for the whole Harper community actually to have us here and the partnership that we have through the Northwest Educational Center for Student Success. It is a great partnership. I do want to also thank Dr. Nancy Robb, who was critical in just getting that started with Dr. Ender, and it's just been absolutely critical and essential for us. So it is a partnership that we have continued. The notion of partnerships is essential, and you're going to hear me mention that a couple times in my comments. The community that I live in is outstanding. Anyone would want to live in my community. Any of these high school districts, any of the 512 Harper district, anyone would want to live in these communities. And that is the goal that I face every morning when I get up. My office happens to look out over Harper College, and I often see the sunrise over Harper College. It is a wonderful place to be and to work and to live, and we have nothing better to accomplish, with our livelihoods than to, quite frankly, give someone else that opportunity to raise a family in our communities and our schools. I want to share with you, we actually have in our district the Teacher of the Year in the whole state of Illinois. This teacher happens to be an autos technology teacher. He is a teacher in the fastest growing department in our district, that is applied technology. There is a buzz that is happening in applied technology. There is immense growth in our dual credit courses and credits that are being earned across our area. It is the result of these partnerships and having a chance to be here in this room. The two specific areas that I want to talk about that I think in this area that we can work together. There's an unmet industry gaps in terms of skilled workers. We hear that again and again, and particularly in those areas that I just mentioned. That's what I want to talk about in my comments, and if I were to make a declarative statement. Already today, I've heard two different people mention unmet, somebody talked about training upward, and someone talked about reaching middle skill jobs. There is a person who lives in our school district who is the son of a manufacturing employee. While that manufacturing employee himself did not go to college, his son did. And his son is now superintendent of Township High School District 211. These manufacturing jobs are not just jobs. They are family breadwinners. They are people that create and change what happens in the course of communities. There was a reference to standards-based and competency-based skills. You're going to hear me reference that. That is critical for us to remember in this particular area, and I am all for completion, but I want to talk a little bit in this particular subset about skills and competencies. People have already said people can't get debt, people can't afford debt. Many of our students can't even access debt because of their citizenship. They don't have time to waste time. All of these are absolutely essential for us and the Harper community as we work together to be able to respond to these needs. I want to read one short section from the articles that came out. This was colleges should end outdated policies that don't put students first. Higher education today identifies closely with its processes in open access public institutions. We assess them for college readiness, place or advise those who are not adequately prepared into remedial classes, give others access to a bewildering variety of course options, often without adequate orientation and advising, provide instruction, often in a passive lecture format, offer services to those who seek and those who find their way to them, grade students how well they can navigate our systems. You want to know what the Harper College system needs to work on? It's right there in those 6 lines. That's what we need to work on. And in our career industry, we have to have a mindset that is about building competencies and skills to fill the positions that those employers most close to our community say that we need to fill. I'm going to close with this. I believe we need Harper to convey and work closely with us and local and regional workforce facts to our students. I believe we need Harper to stop focusing on a degree and get students ready to fill these positions. I believe we need Harper to stop the traditional mindset that in the arena of workforce they are getting people best by preparing them with an associate's degree per se. It is skills and competencies in this particular arena that may serve for this segment of our discussion. The partnerships that we have with Harper are immense. There is no place better for a community college for us to send our students. The work that is taking place, and largely under Dr. Endership's leadership, it is terrific, and we are forever appreciative of those people who have led us there. That's what I have for today.
Well, Daniel, thank you. I liked you hit us hard with a few real thought-provoking comments there, and we're going to have a round robin around them now. Thank you for that. We're going to go to Rodney next.
Oh, good afternoon. Yeah,
Rodney, pull your microphone over to you a little bit so we can hear you. Thanks.
Very good. These microphones can get nervous in front of me. It's an honor to be here today. 5 years ago, 3 years into my term as mayor, I discovered that there were a number of gaps. There were gaps in the community that brought people from where they were to where they need to be. And the gaps were a changing environment, a changing workplace environment. People were being laid off and looking for new directions, sitting at home all discouraged, watching the value in their homes depreciate and trying to figure that out. So we discussed earlier about value creation. I think the value we've discovered over these last few years is the creating of opportunities for adults to go in a different direction, solving that gap. The other gap was our first generation families. Hanover Park happens to be a community with 40% first generation families. And it's probably even higher than that because I'm only looking at one segment of the community and not the Bosnia section, not the Southeast Asian section. The numbers are probably higher than what I'm even stating. But 40% is a good number, a good strong number to say, how do we bridge these gaps? And I invited, we had a little seminar, and I invited the 3 community colleges that touch Hanover Park equally, believe that or not. And Hanover Park happens to be a community that's 7 miles long and a mile wide, and so we go through 4 townships and 2 counties and 3 community college districts and 7 school districts. I mean, it's a crazy town. And so I invited the 3. We had a summit, and I brought in the manufacturers and the larger businesses in Hanover Park with those that came from the 3 community colleges. And we found, and I was surprised that there was this gap with the understanding that the community colleges had and where people were hiring from. They were hiring from these job places, these temp job creation places, because they wanted to test the people on site. They thought they could train them and educate them, but if they were of the correct character, then they could live with that. And that was kind of a gap for those that came from the schools. And then I had a meeting with the 3 presidents, and 2 of them showed up. And they committed from that day on, and I said, I've got a gap. And they said, no, you don't have a gap, we have a gap. And that gap is to assist people to be prepared to go in an entry-level position or a position of I'd call it character for their family, head of household type of jobs. People like to tell me, wow, that's a career job. When I talk to a first-generation family, they want to know they can take care of their family, and so I call it a head of household job, and they get that. Career jobs are like someplace out here, and that scares them away. So we use a language, and I use that language when I visit the schools. Ontariovill School is 92% poverty. One of the schools in Hanover Park. Almost all first-generation families. We've dual language in the first grade. I spend an hour there every week, so they get to hear what the mayor sounds like. And what do I bring? I bring them a vocabulary they're not accustomed to hearing. Extend that vocabulary. And so those are the kind of gaps that just me showing up once a week has made a huge difference in a classroom of first graders. I don't see that difference, but the teacher certainly does. And those of you who teach day in and day out young people get that. It's beyond me. I don't know what value I add, but somehow it's intrinsic enough to say, don't go away. So I continue to go back to that particular school. And so these are the kind of gaps. And when the two presidents said to me, we're going to figure this out, and what's evolved, and it took 4 years of building relationships, not only between the two community schools that didn't abandon the notion of a WorkNet, an education and WorkNet center on the borders of their boundaries. When I went to with the U.S. Conference of Mayors in January, and Dr. Jill Biden came and spoke to the mayors, she said, you mayors need to go back and demand those community colleges step up to the plate for our first-generation families and for those who are looking for a pathway into education and into jobs. Head of household type of jobs. I almost fell off my chair. We opened that in August, and I thought, oh, now I got to start marketing. I don't have to market. There was a backlog of 400 individuals that wanted to get into those classes that were GED, that were English as a second language, and the WorkNet helping them out for the scholarships to get to where they need to be. I knew right away I needed to expand my horizons, so I worked and I got myself on the Metra board, and the Metra board are head of household type of jobs. They need to hire, and they're stuck trying to figure it out. They've done a couple of things with community colleges, but they've failed. I'm on that Metra board now, and one of my key components is Metra is going to replace 50% of their workforce over the next 5 years because those folks are retiring. We're on the cusp of setting up entry-level jobs so you can go to community college and then work right into a position with Metra. And it doesn't mean just Metra. That's a single example. It could be the CTA, it could be a bus driver, it could be a truck driver, it can be into manufacturing. We're already setting the standard for manufacturing at Harper College, and I'm proud of that. And so working with the high schools, I'm on the foundation at District 54 and the STEM program there, motivating that so when they go into high school, they're going to be hooked up and moving along. First-generation families, the children of first-generation families. In U46, they did something uniquely different. They had a special program that was declared unconstitutional. I forget why it ended. But a young man, a first-generation family from Hanover Park, is going on a scholarship to Stanford University, a full ride for 4 years. Can it be done? You betcha. We've demonstrated we know what to do. We just have to have the guts to get out there and do it. And so I don't know if I'm part of the problem or if I'm part of the solution, but I'm certainly trying to identify the gaps and fill those in. And I'm so appreciative to the Dr. Soms, who was here earlier. I don't see him now. What a marvelous man, along with Ken Ender. I mean, two marvelous individuals who stayed the course with me. And when we opened that up, I made a comment that when we first started this, the photo that I took with the three of us was yellowing on my wall, and they presented me a new photo. But we opened that up, and it's been marvelous. It's cooking along. I really like the notion, but we've got to work with our manufacturers to get those folks into those positions. They have the skills. We have people that want to go to work. We just have to get that motivating factor out there. So I think I overspoke my time. I don't know. Thanks.
You were definitely part of the solution. Thanks for challenging us.
Thank you.
With that. So we're going to go on to Marianne.
Sure. Happy to be here. I'm pleased to be part of this helping solve the problem with education. Got involved with Harper Foundation as a Motorola employee, where they had a great emphasis on the education and great partnership between the corporation and with the schools. I've since moved to a Deloitte position, and they also have done quite a bit with education and long-term unemployment. And from Karen's speech, I can speak personally as some of the things that she highlighted. I've been a mentor for many years, and I've had many interns work for me over the past years. And some of those basic skill sets of communications, because you really cannot text your way through an interview. You've got to find other ways to get business done, as well as the problem-solving skills, being able to see a problem and solve it. Yes, there's multiple degrees that can help you prepare for problem solving, but having that ability to make a difference and do something productive in an environment that is financially beneficial to the corporation, that's the exchange that they're looking for. And if the skill that you bring is valuable, companies will hire you. They'll want to work with you. You'll be an asset to the organization. But if you don't have that value you're bringing in, it's really hard to find a placement. So thinking of it as you are coaching and talking to students as they're making their career choices to find things that can have the long-term, really their goal is for a career, having skills that are valuable in the marketplace. The one additional piece I wanted to add was talking about some of these first-generation families that are here. Seeing what I have experienced quite a bit, even more recently, is the need for an international appreciation. And if it is knowing more languages, customs, cultures, religions, economies, all those basic components that really make up an individual is essential for getting things done today, because more and more jobs and interactions that are taking place are going to be done with very diverse groups of people, different countries, and having that understanding will put you one step ahead of being able to make business happen.
Well said and really important. And Karen, if you're ever in a career choice, your BA is going to work at Deloitte. You go right over there. All those languages, you're right there. Okay, Ed, you're batting cleanup. Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you. I appreciate you introducing me as a doctor. Unfortunately, I'm not one, much to my parents' disappointment.
But you did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
One of the things in the presentation that really hit a note with me. One, talking about dignity of workforce. Raise your hand if you wanted to grow up to be a worker. For my industry, I think we really, manufacturers allow the conversation. We dictate it to them as opposed to controlling the conversation. And to use Germany as an example, the value of people working in manufacturing is on a level with doctors, lawyers, etc. So if we would start to use language that speaks to people in terms of manufacturing professionals, maybe we could start to attract more into our environment. So as we attract people in, we need to make sure we have the right culture for people to work in to be successful. And that onus is on the manufacturer. I have lots of conversations with job shop owners who complain about the fact that someone will go down the street for 25 cents more an hour. And then you start to talk to them about, well, what's the cost to replace that individual? Maybe we should just pay them more on the front end. You wouldn't be in that situation. So employers have to realize that they're part of that chain. And they have a responsibility to provide the right kind of work environment to keep and attract a good workforce, manufacturing professionals to be specific. Dr. Cates talked about manufacturing jobs. He very much described my own background. My father was a tool and die maker for General Motors. We grew up in a small town in Michigan, and I was first generation college. My father was a skilled tradesman, made a very good living, and when I talk to groups and young people, I often talk about my father drove a really cool Dodge Ram pickup truck. We had a really nice boat. We went out fishing on Lake Michigan. He liked to hunt. He had all guns that you would want to have as a hunter. And all of that was through a career in manufacturing. And we should allow people that choice and not make them feel bad about that choice.
Right.
And realize that there's a lot of value to working with your hands as well as your head. Because if you need something fixed, you're not calling me. I can call a guy better than anybody you know. And you know, my father built the house that we grew up in. He got the blueprints out of the Sunday paper and built the house.
Right.
I can't do that. He just has that skill, and you know, we should celebrate things like that. And you know, that's enough about me. I'll get off my dad. But really, it's about job skills. It's the number one complaint of my membership is finding that skilled labor pool. We know the average age of people working in manufacturing is in their 50s. They'll be retiring with a great deal of institutional knowledge. So as manufacturers, the challenge is up to us to recruit people in it. So let's bring it down to Harper College. It's all about competing and showing people the value of follow this path, this is what that job pays, this is what that means as a family supporting wage income. We have to make that connection. We're all here for Harper, so I want Harper to win. So we want to attract the best and the brightest. We're going to compete for those students to come to our school. We're in this, no apologies to Elgin, but we're in this to beat Elgin. We're in this to beat all the other schools, because if we take that mindset, it's a very competitive world, and we want our students to beat the students of other schools. So we need to create that environment for them, and showing people the direct link to this career path leads to this kind of wages and this kind of life. I think that's vital for us to be sure that we're communicating that properly. The last thing I would ask is I'd like you to join me in exercise. So the exercise is this. If you would all, for a minute, imagine yourself on a Harley-Davidson Sportster. You're cruising down the highway. You're gunning it. You know, you're at the stoplight. Pull up next to that car. You hit the throttle, make that noise. Don't really get the attention of the person in the car. Hit it again. Finally look over. Yeah, look at me. What are you looking at? Yeah, and then you pull away. So now I want you to picture yourself on a Honda. See yourself driving down the road on a Honda motorcycle. Which do you like better, the Harley or the Honda? Raise your hand if you like the Harley better. Do you all know that that Harley costs 3 times as much for a Honda that looks identical to that Harley? Why is that? Because they found a way to connect
Brand.
to create value for that motorcycle. And that's what our challenge is to do here at Harper. Let's find that emotional connection with our students, and we will win and get the best and brightest and deliver them into the workplace. That's all I have to share.
Thank you, guys, and thank the panel as we get into this conversation with them. Again, who's the least important person in the room? So, right, so I need to get you guys involved in the discussion. You know, Ed, I loved and I heard a couple oohs and ahs, like they didn't like the idea that we had to compete with Elgin. You're not just competing with Elgin. You're competing with the University of Phoenix. You're competing with a whole lot of people. And they aren't all your friends and neighbors. And it's serious, right?
Right.
So I love the way that you guys are starting to challenge us, bringing it home. We've got first-generation families we need to serve. It's a new demographic, a new day. What are the questions? Who's ready? Who's got a microphone? There we go, right here.
Just one quick question. Karen, you had made a comment about solving for X, which is who we're going to hire. So if I'm going to solve for X, I'm not hiring a millennial. I can't watch a 22-year-old with a college degree sit on Facebook all day. So if I'm going to hire somebody, I'm hiring somebody who's mature, right? So if you could tell me, Marianne, how do you want us, how do you recommend the whole dealing with the millennials and that
How do we make our 20-somethings
lack of a lot of
care?
I mean, that is a critical point. In fact, at Deloitte, they have special training programs to
Pull the
make sure-
microphone over. We're not picking you up. There you
that
go.
better.
There you go.
That is definitely a component of managing in the workforce. We've got a wide range of age groups that are managing different millennials, and there's training programs for Deloitte executives to know how to best inspire and encourage. And what's interesting is even things as basic as when millennials pick corporations, they want to know how much of their time is given to foundations and donations and volunteer startups and things of that nature. And so that may not have been as critical, but young millennials are looking at those components, and corporations like Deloitte are changing some of their profiles and their areas of focus to be sure to encourage and inspire them to want to work, as well as educating some of the older workforce to understand how to meet their needs. So we've got a good understanding on both sides. But it's an active learning process. It continues to evolve with each new group that comes through.
So wait a minute, Marianne. Are you saying it's not about us making our 20-somethings conform to us? It's about us
both.
conforming to our 20-somethings?
It's definitely both. So there's new ideas and good ideas that are being created. We recognize the world is changing, so how do we make sure that we are meeting those needs? Especially what was the number? How many percent of jobs 65% of the jobs aren't even here today? Yeah. We want to be able to be open and receptive to that future world and be prepared for whatever that may be. And by embracing some new ideas and learning the best from that, blending the two cultures, you got the best chance of success.
I would just
Go right ahead.
On
Go right ahead.
one little piece. I do think it's incumbent upon us to be really clear with whoever we're serving, regardless of age, that when you're in your neighborhood and when you're in your home, there is a language and a uniform for different things. There's a language and a uniform for bed, right? You put on your pajamas, you read a bedtime story, you go to bed. When you go to work, there's a language and a uniform for whatever that environment is. When I was a teacher, there was a certain language that I had to use in my classroom. That's not what I used on Friday nights when I was hanging out with my girlfriends having a drink, right? What I'm wearing at work is not what I'm wearing on Saturdays. So it is incumbent upon us to be clear that as a society, there are certain standards and certain norms that we all have to adhere to and conform to, and that there are consequences for not doing that. And so in the workplace, there's a language and a uniform, regardless of what that is, and it's our responsibility to educate our students with respect to that.
No, awesome. And you started this, Karen, with that amazing chart, which is speaking, loud and clear, big red bars, as I remember, saying, this is what employers are saying, and you can have all the skills you want, but if you don't have those things, you're not going to get a job or hold the job. Yeah. And we're talking about 20-something, so let's get to a 20-something. Are you the council president or the student body president?
Yes, sir.
Well, first, do you have other representatives from the student body here with you?
I do. We have Marisa,
Who are you?
who's our
Stand
trustee.
up. So everybody that's from the student body. Thank you, guys. You had your arm up, I was told earlier, and I missed you.
Yeah.
So now I'm acknowledging you. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the introduction. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you guys for coming here and lending your time. It's very valuable as a student to be a part of this type of an event, and so I've learned so much. So thank you for that. Before I ask a question, I want to make some comments on some things I've been hearing. I've been hearing how you guys have been talking about reaching out to students in manufacturing and how it's very important, and reaching out to them on the almost on the college, high school level. I think the biggest problem that perhaps is not maybe being identified, and if it is, maybe not on a wide scale, is that manufacturing just doesn't look attractive. And that's the biggest problem we have. On TV you see lawyers and you see doctors and you see people that are kind of involved in the wider social context, like actors and musicians, and that's what looks most attractive. However, the more attractive you have an industry, the more competition you're going to have in that industry, which the financial benefit of that is going to shrink because there are too many people in that industry. And so I believe that if we started off on a lower level, maybe in elementary school or in kind of like the first stages of preschool, kindergarten, and make it kind of like marketable to those kids on their level and then continue that as we go into different grades, perhaps the interest will be higher instead of waiting until high school or before college entry level and introducing it. Because it's not really cool for some kids, the whole math, that's the stigma. Math and science is not necessarily interesting, And so I think we got to start there and say, hey, look, okay, we got to deal with the people that are going to be the next generation, but while we're dealing with them, let's create that incentive. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. My second point and question is, how do you, as the current generation that is leading this charge, how do you make that interesting to students? How do you engage them on that level where it's something that will interest them, while, as you said, about keeping the professional standards in place? Because I've been on a ton of jobs and I've seen that there is no respect, there is no professionalism, and there are just some employers that they are allowing that to happen. You have to have that kind of relatability, but there must be professionalism so that they know, hey, there's a line and there's a standard and you have to hold to that. So how do you continue that trend in moving forward?
Who wants to start? Yeah, very well said. Okay, let's go here to Ed first, and then we'll go around.
So I'll address that. So my organization, we also have a charitable foundation called Nuts, Bolts, and Thingamajigs. And we fund summer manufacturing camps for kids. We had 20 this year. We'll have 25 in 2015. All over the United States. We have one of them right here at Harper College. And it's targeted at middle school age kids to get them involved. Most of the kids are involved for the very first time in using their hands, trying to learn how to build something. Kurt participates with that program. He's a great champion for Harper College of that. So you're on the money, and we're trying to reach that demographic. The other thing that my organization has done is partnered with the National Association of Manufacturers and the National Institute of Standards and Technologies to create something called Manufacturing Day. So October 2nd this year, we invite manufacturers to open their doors to allow the public in so we can start to change that conversation. They invite schools, counselors, legislators, people in the community, so that manufacturers can control that conversation for change and show the innovative culture that exists, so we can get people interested in it. You're absolutely correct. That's the biggest challenge is people drive by the building and go, wonder what goes on in there, but they never get a chance to go inside. So that's one of the ways we're trying to address that. We started the program 3 years ago with 240 events across the U.S. 2 years ago we had 840. Last year we had 1,640. This year we'll probably have 2,500.
Wow.
So
Yeah, you're making a dent.
we're
That's a
making
big number.
and trying
Yeah.
to change that conversation. Last year we were successful in getting President Obama to declare National Manufacturing Day on October 3rd. So we're working on it, and we'll continue to work on it because it's important as you outlined. The other thing is, as part of that, are programs like How It's Made, all the Discovery Channel networks. There's lots of money involved from producing those events because they're relatively inexpensive to produce, and getting people just to sit in their home with their family and turn on those channels. That's one way to get people involved right from the couch. So we encourage people to do that. And the last thing I would say is if you're a representative of a Harper College student, we're in pretty good shape. So
Yeah, no kidding.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And there's never enough time. I'm almost out of time, but kudos for you. You're going to take us home, I think.
Wait, one more follow-up.
Oh, just let her follow up quickly. I didn't realize, and then
Terry Iverson from, he was supposed to be here today. I was hoping to meet him again, but he's got this video called Champion Now. If you haven't seen it, it's the most inspirational to me for manufacturing and getting young people excited about the field. And I've used that when I speak to high school groups, college groups, just to open that door and keep that communication going. So there's quite a bit of efforts in multiple organizations inspiring and really re-educating what that world looks like. So it's very positive, I see.
And many of the students from our schools are in those videos, and that they use those multimedia tools in our schools as well. So that's how it happens.
And I'd also like to say, as a mayor, I've reached out to other mayors because we touch base with a lot of young people, whether we're in the schools or where we're at. I've reached out to the TMA, the Tool and Manufacturing Association, which just changed their name, to have a Mayors for Manufacturing Day, so we can drill down on building those relationships so that those within our community and young people, because what I do is I tell them, you follow your instincts. You might learn your tenacity and your pride in what you do. It doesn't necessarily have to be in manufacturing. I learned mine from my father, who owned a bakery, and he was disappointed when I was 18 and I joined the Navy because he thought I would be a career baker. Now I could decorate a cake and I can make a flower with.
We might take you up on that later.
with buttercream. You know, you never forget the skill. It's like swimming. But that wasn't my motivator. My motivator was working with my father and learning how to take pride in things, and I've transitioned that to other events. So you as a young man are a model for other young men who want to go in and do anything. So don't forget that. Just don't schluck it off and say, you know, what I'm doing is, worthless. It's good for me. But you are a model for your peers also. I can tell and share my experience with a young person, but when they see another young person as a model of that, they're going to say, yeah, I want to be like you,
him.
And so I get a lot of passion when young people ask the question, because when they come in my office, and I sit there and we have a great conversation. I said, what does your instincts tell you? Where do you really want to go? And we're talking over here, and then all of a sudden a young lady says, well, I really want to go to NASA. Well, I happen to know somebody that works for NASA in a very high level position, and say, call them up and say, how do I get this young person connected? Give me their email, we'll talk. And it works. You never know. Trust your instincts.
Okay, real quick.
Just one last thing. So we are actually producing a series of videos for all of the different occupations that we're training people in, so that they can see what it looks like. So manufacturing, people think it's dirty and grit and grime and grease, and it really isn't. Like if you go into some of these plants, they are super duper clean, and you got like a bunch of 20-year-olds on iPads controlling machines. I mean, it is the coolest thing ever. Right, but people, again, you can't be what you can't see. So if you have no idea of what it means to produce iPods, or produce the tools that they use to create iPods, or to be a welder, then you don't know anything about it. So our job is to really expose people way earlier, as you said, but to show them what the opportunity looks like.
No, thank you all, and we are real long. Last question.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on what Ed said about Manufacturing Day. We do celebrate Manufacturing Day here at Harper, and we have the past 3 years. This past October, we had 100 students from our district, middle school and high schools, come to the college. We did a presentation in the morning where we showed them some of our labs, and then we had lunch and sent them to several plants that are in our area so that they could get firsthand experience in what goes on in manufacturing today. I think that next year I'm going to invite the student ambassadors and our student government to participate with us so that we can have some extra help.
Yeah, I think you just found a good marketing outlet there. Yeah, I would if I were you. Great. Well, guys, I'm sorry there isn't time for more discussion. We're going to have a lot of it, though, in a few minutes. Thanks, please, to the panel and to Karen, our keynoter, for bringing this down to the community level. Guys, appreciate it, much appreciated. Okay, so we are a little long, and we're going to make it up, and we're still going to try to get you where you need to be by 6, so bear with me. All right, all of what we've been doing is designed to get us able to better do what? Why are we here? Yeah, to focus on the activities. You heard Dr. Ender start to say, 2, 3 strategic directions, 4 or 5 goals around them. So our end game at the end of this thing is to get us there. So you're about to move into a breakout activity to begin those discussions that we'll build on tomorrow. Everybody relax, there's no test, there's no quiz, there's not even a report out. But I am going to ask you to head out into these breakout rooms, and some of you are reaching for your orange papers. Those are the ones we'll be looking at, you're right. Very good class. And to begin to think about what you've heard all day starting with our opening panel with Ken and Jim, and going to the doctor's presentation from Denver University, and onto the panels and the keynotes that you've heard up until this point, you're going to start to absorb and assimilate. We're going to test your critical thinking skills and start to boil them up and come up with some facts that jump out to you as what Harper should be responding to. So of the things you've heard all day so far, what are the ones that are jumping out at you that you think Harper in its next 5-year plan needs to be focusing on? So give me an example, anybody. This is a brainstorm, so no right or wrong answer. What is 1 or 2 things that jumped out to you so far today? It's important that it needs to make it into your breakout discussions next. Anybody? Talk, shout it out. Adults. We need a focus on adults. What else? Yeah. Completion rates. A focus on completion rates. What else?
Leveraging technology.
Leveraging technology. Awesome. What else? Yeah. Blending. Yeah. Disruptive innovation, I heard. Yeah. Alignment with careers and professional opportunities. By the way, the lingo in the feds who are funding a lot of this work, by the way, career pathways. Career pathways. Yes. So in other words, make sure that transfer students are ready to perform in the 4-year, both here and in 4-year.
No, preparing for success in college in high school.
Oh, I'm sorry. Preparing for success in college, starting in high school. Yes. Leveraging the classroom. I'm not sure what the hell that means, but I've known Ender so long, I guarantee you it's brilliant. So you guys will tell me. What else? Wait 1 second. Go ahead. Competency-based. By the way, disruptive, big time. If you haven't looked at College for America and what they're doing, you need to. Yes, say it loud so we can hear.
The Harper College value.
What's the value proposition of Harper College? Anything else? Yeah.
Getting the curriculum or need for the jobs that aren't even here yet for the future.
Yeah, in other words, start to be able to be, well, let me put it a different way. Let me test if we're working together. How is this institution going to be nimble enough to train for things that we don't even know what they exist yet? Yeah. Right? By the way, that's a huge challenge because everything set up around the higher education system in this country is set up to make it slow, bureaucratic, and control value and quality, which works exactly against being nimble. All right? So interesting. Another one? Who? Yes?
Building technical and non-technical skills.
Building technical and non. So in other words, we've got 2-year degree programs, preparing for 4-year degree programs, but what about post-secondary credential? By the way, one answer to your question, how's this work for you? The average starting salary of a registered apprenticeship in this country is $55,000. That'll get a few people's attention, I think. Okay, so you got the drill. We understand what we're looking to do. You're going to go into your breakout rooms, and you're going to start to distill down all of what we've just heard, recognizing that at some point you're going to have to get it really now. For now, it's just kind of, what are the big ones that your group thinks are important? Does that make sense? Yeah. Questions? All right, so you